Philippines, good evening. Naimbag garabi, masanto siya sa labi si kayo amin, Maya, Pabengi, Keka, marahin na banggi sa Indugubus, maupay nga gabi, ha iyo nga tanan na dida. Mayad-mayad nga gabi, maradyaw na doyom sa Ijuhurut, buenas noches, bismillahirrahmanirrahim, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakato. Maayong gabi sa Tibok Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, up to Philippine Sabah. Ako po si Eric Espina at ito ang inyong programang Republika. Well, tonight, with the pending Tokyo Olympics just a month away, we're going to be talking about something separate from politics, and this has everything to do with sports. Sports and all its problems, sports in all its politics. And we're very fortunate to have an icon in Philippine sports. We claim him as our own because he's a Cebuano here in Cebu, and well, I'll cut it short because everybody knows him. He's a commissioner of the Philippine Sports Commission, none other than Ramon Fernandez. Good evening, maayong gabi.
Maayong gabi, Eric, o maayong gabi sa tanang nagtanaw ani ron nga programa. Maayong gabi kaninyong tanan. Hinaot pa na mo sa maayong pagkabutang tanan.
Commissioner, we'll start the interview hinay-hinay lang, slow by slow, manigitawag nila. For those who still do not understand, how does the Philippine Sports Commission look like? I mean, is it under the office of the President, and then are there different federations under it, and then are there different sports clubs that are part of it, so that we can get sort of like a gleaning of and an understanding of what is the real function of the Philippine Sports Commission?
Yes, the Philippine Sports Commission was created, Eric, in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
An agency attached to the office of the President.
Mm-hmm.
Our chairman is an undersecretary.
Mm-hmm.
The four commissioners are assistant secretaries. Its main mandate really is to plot the sports program of the country, taking into consideration grassroots, most especially grassroots program, making the sports program available to the periphery throughout the nation. No? It's a government agency. That's what differentiates us from the Philippine Olympic Committee.
Okay.
It is private.
Okay.
The Philippine Olympic Committee is a private organization which is under the International Olympic Committee.
Okay.
Okay? And under the Philippine Olympic Committee are the different national sports association.
Okay.
Like the NSA for boxing, for basketball, SBP, swimming, patafa, athletics, and all the other sports. No, there are at least right now 60 different sports associations that are recognized by the Philippine Olympic Committee.
Mm-hmm.
The officers of the Philippine Olympic Committee are officers also of the different national sports associations.
Mm-hmm.
They elect their officers every Olympic cycle. Right after the Olympics, they will elect the officers of the Philippine Olympic Committee from the different officers of the National Sports Association. Okay, the main mandate also of the PSC, which is there in the PSC law, is to support and help the different national associations that are recognized by the POC. No? As far as their elite program, the members of the national team, we call them elite athletes. No? So we, the PSC provides for the monthly allowances of all the athletes that are provided by the different NSAs to be members of their national lineup. So there are about close to 1,200, 1,300 athletes that are in the national team lineup of the different national sports associations. The PSC provides for their monthly allowances. It varies. Meron doon ay mga classifications depende sa level of performances sa atong mga athletes. Doon na tayo premium athletes.
Okay.
I think 3 or 4 categories. No, an example of a premium athlete is Heidelin Diaz, and as of now, si Nestip is Vitencio. They earn about 45,000 a month. The second level athletes earns about 43,000 a month, and then 33, 25, and the beginners 10,200 more or less monthly. No, so it is the responsibility of the NSAs to choose who their coaches are, who are the members of their lineup. The PSC has nothing to do with that, and even the POC. The POC only recognizes the list that are given by the NSA as their team members, national team members. And the PSC also funds all those athletes that are going abroad for training, for competition, everything. Airfare, hotel accommodation, transportation in the local. Now, nidaghan ang expenses, mga PCR tests, quarantine periods, so dako kayo ang gastos na because of the pandemic. No? So basically, that's the picture of the relationship between the PSC, a government institution, government agency attached to the office of the president, the POC, private, under the International Olympic Committee, and the NSAs are under the POC.
How is the relationship between the PSC and the POC? I mean, are there times where a particular national sport has a little problem in their elections? I mean, if it ever happens, and can the sort of like the PSC, can it referee the problems within these respective associations?
No, Eric. No, if there are problems, political maneuverings or whatever, and the like sa NSA, they have to go through the arbitration committee of the Philippine Olympic Committee. Dili man labutan na, no? They are independent, they are private, no? We only come in when we hear complaints by athletes or some officials of problems regarding financial statement status. No, tunay may mga problema, may mga kwento na hindi nabibigay yung tamang allowance sa mga atleta. That's the time we come in. We have visitorial and supervisory powers over the NSAs and the POC. No? There are problems of NSAs not able to liquidate the financial assistance that the PSC gives the NSA. We can stop financial assistance to them. They have to liquidate all the financial assistance that the PSC gives to them 30 days after the event is finished. After the culmination of the event. Yes.
What I'm hearing is that the budget for every NSA is given directly to the NSA. This is not directly. It's not as if the PSC directly gives the checks to the different athletes. So it has to go through the NSAs. That's what we're hearing.
Supposed to be. Regularly, that is what is done. The NSA requests for financial assistance, say, for a trip to Europe, listing everything, all the expenses. If the NSA has no unliquidated problems, we give the money to the association. There are cases already, several times this has happened, and it's going on, that there are NSAs na up to now has not liquidated. So what we do para hindi naman maantala yung training ng mga athletes, we send a special disbursing officer, an SDO, to the delegation to take care of their financial needs wherever they are, no? So hindi na namin binibigay sa NSA. We give it directly to the athletes because all the athletes, for one, they have their bank accounts with Land Bank. So lahat ng all their allowances is deposited directly to their accounts, no?
Okay. At least the public that was listening, labi na katong mga bagong henerasyon, makasabot na sila, no? They can more or less understand how the process is undertaken. Now, let's go now to the new reality, which is the pandemic, no? How has sports been affected? I mean, especially training, no? How has sports training been affected by the pandemic? And what was the initial response of the PSC? With all this happening, you know, left and right, front and center, how did you respond to this challenge?
Well, when the lockdown started last year, March 16 to be exact,
Yes.
we had to stop all the programs of the PSC. We had scheduled several grassroots programs and events, and we had to cancel it, no? In fact, the biggest concern really was yung because the PSC gets its funding from PAGCOR.
Okay.
When PAGCOR locked down in March last year, wala na siyempreng income, no? And the allowances of the athletes plus other expenses of the PSC, what we call the National Sports Development Fund, NSDF, comes from there. And also for the support of the elite athletes. Can you imagine, Eric, in February of 2020, our monthly contribution or the amount of money given by PAGCOR to the PSC was already 150 million
Okay.
a month. December of the year before was about 120. It ranges from 130, 120, 150, no? Pagdating ng March, bumagsak sa 7 million. No? So, we were in a quandary. So, kinausap namin ng mga atleta na starting March, one half na lang muna sa allowances nila ang ibibigay. Because hindi kami aabot ng December of 2020 kung i-full hanggang September, October lang yon kung yung amount na nasa amin. No? So hindi mabuti naman pumayag yung mga atleta. But of course, with the promise that when everything gets to normal or lumaki ang contributions, ang bigay ng PAGCOR to us, ibabalik din namin. And we were able to do that, to return the total amounts retroactive sometime December 2020. No? In spite of the total lockdown of 2020, walang training, walang games, they were just at home. They were still giving, PSC was still giving the allowances 100% to the athletes. No?
Okay, we're going to pause for a few reminders and then I'd like to leave you these questions to mull on. Did the quality of training was it also affected, no? And then number two, of course, when you talk about training, the athlete has to be more or less training every day. So if they stop training for 1 week, 2 months, or 3 months, it has a way of affecting, you know, your chemistry, your muscles, etc., etc. And it was the level of competition, did it also somehow go down when Republika returns? Okay, kahinabi lang gyapon nato ang atong commissioner, si Ramon Fernandez, ang atong gituki kabahin ni sa Philippine Sports 2021. And Commissioner, did the level of training go down? And then would you say, as an athlete yourself, no, what kind of effect does that have on the sportsman? I mean, you know, you're used to training every day and then all of a sudden you're not allowed, you're just staying home. So how does that affect you in terms of your physical capacity, your mental, and then your emotional?
100%, Eric, talagang naapektuhan. No? As I said, the whole year of 2020, walang athletes na nag-training except for those athletes in individual sports like weightlifting, maybe even boxing. But even boxing, contact sports,
Yes.
wala talaga. Walang kasparing, hindi pwede. Everybody, all the athletes in 2020 were doing training on their own in their homes. No, there were no competitions. Walang nobody joined any competitions locally or abroad. There were virtual competitions, one on your own. No, but walang kalaban, walang kasparing for martial arts sports. No, so totally talaga. Of course, iba yung physical shape mo, of course. It will definitely lower down a little bit. But one thing with these athletes, especially at this level, being in the national team, they already know how to take care of their physical condition. No? They know how to be in top shape all the time, even if they are practicing on their own. So that was what was holding them. And of course, the promise of a better tomorrow, medyo tumagal lang talaga ng konti, but then came the time that January, I think, of 2021, na na-allow na yung bubble training ng mga Olympic qualifiers and those who were trying to qualify for the Olympics.
Yes,
no?
yes.
So nakasali din sila. Yung iba were able to go abroad and play in the qualifying tournaments. That's where our boxers went, and 4 of them qualified, and so with the other sports. We're lucky that Yulo of gymnastics is based in Japan, training there. Si Heidelin joined the competition in Malaysia. Doon na rin siya nagtuloy ever since. May isang taon na siya doon. Si Obiena was in Italy. And some of our swimming and athletes are in the States, no?
Yes, yes.
So doon na sila nag-continue ng training nila in the bubble type of training, no? So iba talaga as compared to the normal way we train and we prepare. No?
The level of competition also is affected, no? And this is what I ask you, no? Are we aware of any sportsman who got COVID or whose parents got COVID, or did we know of any A1 sportsman who was affected in terms of being hospitalized, or who even passed away during the COVID?
About passing away, I've heard of one, but hindi COVID yun, Eric, no? There was an accident somewhere. But there were a couple of athletes, national team athletes na nagka-COVID, but naka-recover naman, no? It's open now that Christina Nat, a qualifier for athletics, sa 200 and 400 meters, she's based in the States.
Yes.
She had 2 doses of Pfizer already several weeks or months ago, but still na COVID pa rin, ano?
Yes.
So she's in isolation right now, and we're hoping that she can recover in time for the Tokyo Olympics. No? There were a couple of athletes, not too many though.
Yeah, I asked this question, Commissioner, because of course the scientists say that those who undergo a COVID-19 viral infection, eventually, although they recover, they have problems in terms of their lung capacity, their heart is affected, even sometimes there are fog a foggy moment or you could use the term senior moment with the way you're thinking. And for an athlete, that is very crucial. You know, your mind and then your heart and then your lungs. So how does this augur well for our athletes, especially those who got COVID?
There is one athlete who went through that, Eric. I will not just tell you the sport. It's a martial arts sports, but he got COVID way back in December pa, and they went into bubble training, and the coach found out that matagal siyang naka-recover doon sa physical. May mga tests yan sila
Yes.
Alam na, training natin ngayon, very scientific na. May mga physiologist na tayo and all that, no? So, nakita nila na yung conditioning niya bumaba talaga, matagal siyang naka-recover, no? So, that really happens. That's true. We experienced that with one of our athletes.
In terms of international competition, we expose our athletes for this, no, in order to level up their training
Correct.
and their expertise. With COVID, how do you see this affecting the performance of our athletes, especially when international competitions were basically closed, no? So, will that level down the capacity, the ability of our sportsmen, and perhaps also as well affect our own competitors' performance?
Well, talking of the Olympics, I don't think this situation, this environment of COVID will have a big effect on them because, you know, Eric, they've been training since they were kids to be able to join the Olympics.
Yes.
And I don't think there's anything, for as long as they've been vaccinated, they follow protocols and all that. So their spirit, their confidence, palagay ko hindi naman maapektuhan masyado, no? So they are very well prepared. We have, you know, now during these times, Eric, hindi na pwede yung coach lang ang trainer ang kasama ng atleta. Sa mga Olympians natin, merong psychologist, may nutritionist, may physiologist, may strength and conditioning coach over and above their coach talaga, no? So, kompleto yan. May mga psychologists and all that. They're continually being monitored by the medical department of the Philippine Sports Commission.
I'll ask this of you, Commissioner. No, this has always been an ongoing debate among athletes, among sports officials. Do we send athletes into foreign competition for exposure? And at the end of the day, do we want them to be better trained, or are we training them to eventually get gold medals? Or it's just purely participatory in our sense so that the Philippines has a presence in these international meets?
Well, the elite program, the national team members are really geared towards achieving their goals in the Olympics, in the Asian Games, and in the SEA Games. That's really the main purpose of this program for the elite. So we send them all over the world to train, to compete, because I believe that an athlete is only as good as his competition. He has to be at par with the rest, with the best of the world, and the only way to do that is to send them and participate in those high-level competition. So we do that. That's what we're doing.
Do we send? There are those who think that why should we be sending these particular athletes when they will never be able to get, for example, at least a bronze, a silver, and a gold? That's why I ask you this question. Or are we there because we should really have our presence felt by the entire globe, whether we win or not? At least the Philippine flag is being waved during such a competition.
Yes, Eric. For me, then kasi, being able to reach or play in the Olympics is already winning for me.
Okay.
Not every Tom, Dick, and Harry is afforded that opportunity to be able to qualify. Qualifying in the Olympics is really something really, really hard to do,
Yes,
no?
yes.
But, the Olympics Games is the only international competition that I missed
Yes, 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 yes.
because we turned pro in 1975. But, you know, as I said, going to the Olympics is winning already by itself, no? We're hoping that finally this year, to date, we already have at least 15 qualifiers in the different sports, no? So we're really hoping that we will have multi-medals this year. I'm just hoping that we really get the gold already, no? Because several of these athletes that are in the Olympics have beaten their opponents in the World Championships, and these are basically the same people playing in the Olympics. So definitely they have a chance of winning a medal or even winning a gold.
As a respected voice in Philippine sports, it's part of history that sometimes the Olympics or certain international meets are politicized. And there are certain countries that do not allow their athletes to participate to make a political statement. Should politics and sports be separated? I mean, should it be part of the diplomatic process, or should it be part of a political statement, or just let athleticism, physicality, and sports stand on its own ground?
Well, dapat talaga i-separate yan, but that doesn't happen.
Yes, yes.
Eric, no, that's their reality. Even in the International Olympic Organization, mas grabe ang politics doon. You know? In the Asian Confederation, everywhere. Even here, in the Philippines, sa mga NSAs and the POC, awayan ng mga politiko, karamihan mga dyan, mga politicians ang nandiyan dyan, no? So, hindi mo ma-separate completely. And the PSC, being political appointees, sometimes we have to be we compromise also a little bit, no? Because the budget of the PSC aaprubahan ng mga congressman and senador, no? Kailangan timplahin din namin yung laro kung paano, no?
Yes, yes.
Na hindi mabawasan yung budget para sa mga atleta. So it's really, I guess, in every, you know, part of life ng tao, meron talagang politika. Even sa pamilya, I believe, meron din
yes. Would you believe that, and would you agree with this, that a country is as serious in its sports program based on the amount of budget that it also dedicates? If we are really serious about our sports program, we should be giving more, in short, in terms of appropriations. And what do you think? If let's say President Duterte asks you and says, Commissioner Fernandez, what do you think should be a good figure in terms of coming up with a real serious sports program for the Philippines?
I will ask for 10 billion a year, Eric. At the moment, as I mentioned earlier, when our administration came into being in 2016, the PSC was only getting 80 million because in the PSC law, the PAGCOR is supposed to give 5% of the gross income to the PSC.
Yes.
Okay? So in 2016, we were getting about 80 million a month. Then tumataas to 100, 110, 120, back to 80 until pagdating nga ng February of 2020, nag-150 million na. So palagay na natin 100 million a month. So that's only how much? 1.2 billion a year.
Yes.
Ang Malaysia is spending about 6 or 8 billion a year. Singapore is about 10. The rest of the countries are ranging from the 8 to 10 billion. And even the rest, the first world countries in Asia, are even spending a lot more. No? So really, to have a very good program, it has to start from the grassroots. Because sadly, since the inception of the PSC 31 years ago, there was no honest to goodness grassroots development program. Meron lang, every now and then, merong Batang Pinoy, but that's once a year. Merong Philippine National Games, but that's every 2 years. DepEd, meron silang palarong pambansa every year. Yun lang siguro, pero limitado masyado din, no? There's got to be a quarterly competition in all the regions all over the country for 15-year-olds and below. That's what I consider a real honest to goodness grassroots sports development program.
Okay, we're going...
So that
okay.
we can identify the athletes are all over there in our LGUs. We can identify them. The moment we identify them and they reach about 15, 16, or in some sports, younger, they can be picked up by the NSAs to be in their national lineup.
Okay.
And they take care of that. For me, dapat ang PSC should handle just grassroots, and the NSAs should take care of the elite programs. The NSAs should be able to fund themselves for their programs. Because what's happening now, marami sa kanila, umaasa lang sa financial assistance sa NSA.
Okay.
And can you imagine there are 60
Yes.
sports associations. So, balagay mo na meron tayong 1.5 billion. 40% of that is supposed to go to the elite athletes. 40% of 1.5 billion, paghahati-hatian niya ng 60. And athletics and swimming, yun ang pinakamalaking budget eh. Because yung dalawang sports na yun ang kailangan laruin sa Olympics, sa Asian Games, and SEA Games. Yung iba pwedeng wala, but itong dalawang to, at napakarami nilang atleta.
Okay.
There are so many. Athletics is about 60 medals at stake.
Okay.
Swimming, close to 50 also, no? So, yeah, that's the story.
Commissioner, we're going to pause for a few reminders, and then I'd like to bring in as many questions as possible. How would you look at sports, Philippine sports, in terms of under President Duterte, if you compare it with other presidents? And that's one. Number two is, do we revive some kind of a Gintong Alay program in order to come out with a medal haul, a better medal haul for the coming Olympics or other international meets? And then we will focus now on the Tokyo Olympics and the preparations, and what are the optimistic side that we can look forward to in terms of a medal haul when Republika returns. Okay, nagbabalik po tayo sa ating programang Republika. Kausap pa rin po natin si Commissioner Ramon Fernandez. Siya po kayang kasamahan po natin dyan sa Philippine Sports Commission. Commissioner, so I had a slew of questions. So, how would you compare President Duterte, let's say, with other former presidents? And then, do we revive some kind of a Gintong Alay kind of program, like in Baguio, for the training of our athletes?
As a question regarding that also was asked of me earlier several times, Eric. I don't want anymore. I'm aware and familiar of what was happening before our term, but I always say that the athletes never had it so good during this term of President Duterte. Yun ang number one niyang pinagbilin kay Chairman Ramirez at sa aming mga commissioners to take care of the athletes, to feed them well. That's why pinakaunang ginawa namin, Eric, with regards to their feeding program. Before, they already, aside from their allowance, meron na silang 5,000 a month food allowance. Okay? But ang nangyayari kasi, itong mga karamihan sa ating mga athletes, kawawa naman, lalo na yung mga galing sa probinsya, yung 5,000 nila, ipapadala pa nila sa mga pamilya nila. Yes. So, ang kinakain nila, yung ano na lang, yung ano bang tawag doon sa pansit na lalagyan mo ng tubig? Noodles?
Nor cubes. Parang Nor cubes, mga ano na lang, mga ramen.
Ramen, yun na lang ang kinakain nila. So, how come we have a healthy athlete, no? So, ang ginawa namin, over and above the 5,000 food allowance nila under regular allowance, nagtayo kami ng canteen at the Rizal Memorial Coliseum, at Phil Sports in Pasig. That's where majority of our athletes were staying before, and in Baguio. Nag-hire tayo ng nutritionist and prepare all their food there, no? I think umabot ang budget doon ng mga over and above their 5,000. Meron silang 600 pesos a day na food. 3 meals a day, may konting merienda pa nga yun, no? So, yun ang kabilin-bilina ni Presidente namin. So, you see, noong 2017 SEA Games in Malaysia, pang-anim ba tayo? Pang-lima or pang-pito? So, napakalayo pa tayo. So, what we did, in-implement nga namin yung mga polisiya na yun na changes. Tayo kami ng medical teams sa PSC, mga psychologists, nutritionists, physiologists, and all those, no? At yung canteens. And it's a really simple formula, Eric. No need to be a rocket scientist. No? You mentioned earlier, if you want to improve, compete at the topmost level. So what we did to prepare for the SEA Games where we hosted, towards the end of 2018, Asian Games pa rin ang 2018, no? So starting 2018, pinadala na namin yung mga atleta all over the world, almost, I think, practically all of them, to compete in all the international competitions, the top-level competition. We, for 2019 alone, for the preparation for the SEA Games of 2019, the PSC spent 1.4 billion for training abroad and competitions abroad. So, nakita nyo naman ang performance ng mga atleta natin, no? 149 gold medals and, you know, nag-number 1 tayo, no? And it showed in their performances talaga, no? Because lahat naman yung mga kalaban nila 2017, yun ang nakalaban din nila 2018 and 2017 eh. Nung kalaban ng 2019 rather, no? So nag-improve talaga siya. There's no way but to improve if you bring these kids to the top level competitions all over.
I'll ask this of you, Commissioner, no? 3 quick questions. You talked about grassroots a while ago. Is there a way, is it in the planning stage of the Philippine Sports Commission to come up with the Philippine Sports College, where, you know, probable, talented athletes at a very young age can be courted by the PSC, and then they can be transferred for grade school or high school and then eventually college, so that they will also graduate as with a collegiate degree, at the same time be stars of Philippine sports. I mean, are we thinking in those terms? That's one. Number 2 is, what are our preparations in terms of the Tokyo Olympics? And then number 3, are we worried about what may happen in Tokyo with all these variants coming around, and then the Japanese people are also complaining about why proceed with the Tokyo Olympics? Those are the 3 short questions.
Okay, well, let's take number 1 first,
Yes,
Eric.
yeah.
At the onset of our administration, ni-revive kagad ni Chairman Butch Ramirez yung Philippine Sports Institute.
Okay.
No? Inumpisahan niya yon in his previous term, 2005 to 2008, no? Pero hindi tinuloy ng the next administration. So ibinalik namin yan, Philippine Sports Institute. We have tie-ups with the United States Sports Academy, Australian Sports Academy, Korea, China, and several other countries, no? But we're lucky indeed na dumating si Senator Bongo, who is the chairman of the Philippine of sports in the Senate.
Yes.
File siya ng bill creating the National Academy of Sports.
Yes.
Approved na yan, may budget na yan. They're about to start construction of their school. This is for high school.
High school.
Athletes, student athletes, no? So matutugunan na yung hindi lang yung sports training ng atleta but even their studies.
Yes, yes.
Kasi yun ang yung problema natin. Yung mga atleta natin hindi na nag-aaral kasi nagko-concentrate lang sa athletic career nila. Kaya ngayon masasabay na natin yan. We're glad that that has been passed, no? Tinatayo na yan. Tapos napasa din yung Philippine Training Center sa Bataan. Merong nag-donate ng 25 hectares ang mga Garcias doon. Sila Governor, Congressman Garcia, nag-donate ng 25 hectares of land. Binigyan na ng gobyerno ng budget na 3.5 billion to put up facilities there just like the Rizal Memorial Sports Complex, but which is bigger.
Yes.
Rizal is only about 8.9 hectares. This is
25.
25 hectares.
Yes.
No? So, in place na yan. The engineers, the architects are doing the plans already, the designs and all that. No? So, yan, that's in place. In fact, that's part of our plan, really, Eric. Isa lang dyan, because we have more or less identified some regions because we believe there should be some regional training centers.
Correct.
Like here in Cebu,
Correct.
in Iloilo, maybe 2 or 3 in Mindanao, and 3 or 4 or 5 in Luzon, no? Because yung mga 13, 15, 12-year-old to 15-year-old athletes, mahirap mong alisin yan from Tuburan and bring him to Manila to train, no?
Yes.
Magkaka-culture shock yan, as what happened to some athletes that were brought to Manila coming from provinces. They should stay first in the regional training center. That's the blueprint of our plan, Eric, no?
In terms of Tokyo Olympics, what preparations are we undertaking? And then are we worried about the so-called bubble? Because there are certain athletes that were discovered to have been positive in terms of COVID.
Well, as of now, I think 100% of them have been vaccinated already, no? And some of them are in Japan. As I said, they're scattered. Japan, Italy, Malaysia, and the States, and some are here. And I believe we're sending them because there's a 10-day isolation protocol in Japan. So we have to send them earlier. Mas mabuti yun. Everything is prepared already as far as the Tokyo Olympics is concerned.
So everything is in place. I mean, can we look forward to possible, as always, it's the most asked questions. What areas, what sports events can we be optimistic? I'll just use the word optimistic about.
Yes. Let's start first with having won a silver medal in Rio. Si Heidelin will be going on her 4th Olympic stint, no? And another girl from Cebu, kababayan nato, si Elrin Ando. And this girl can pull surprises also, no? We're relying on her to medal also. Then there's Yulo of gymnastics. He has won a gold in ano ba yung event nila sa floor exercise in the World Championships. And he's getting stronger in another discipline. So merong dalawang disciplines na gumagaling na talaga si Yulo, no? Of course, there's Obiena. In pole vault, he has beaten several weeks ago, he has beaten the Rio gold medalist. And just a couple of days ago, nag-number 2 na naman siya, or number 1 in one of the tournaments in Europe, no? And you cannot discount also yung shooter natin. I think si Jason Valdez, no? Because yung scores niya ngayon umaabot na ng 630 sa sa rifle to 10-meter rifle shooting, Eric, no? So he's been performing well also in his sport and preparing well. And so the boxers, of course. No? The boxers, of course. There are 4 of them, no? Uh, yeah, basically, yun, I have faith in the weight category individual sports nato, Eric.
In of course, every country has its own so-called national sports. The U.S. is baseball, and European countries you have, of course, soccer. In the Philippines, it's always been basketball, no? Somehow it's always been basketball. There was a time softball was in the works as well. But as far as basketball is concerned, where are we? What are our chances? And should we be looking at other strategies in order to really make a mark in terms of world basketball?
Yung basketball, Eric, that has been taken care of by the private sector naman. No? But as I said before, it's a game for giants.
Okay.
It's a game for us Filipinos. In the 50s and the 60s, wala pa masyadong maraming naglalaro ng basketball in the world, in Asia, especially. Tayo lang talaga ang lokong-loko sa basketball. Maybe Japan and Korea. China was already playing, but they were closed then. So, yung ibang Asian countries, Australia, wala yan. Malalayo na tayo masyado. It's because of the heft and the height, no? So, from the onset of our administration, Eric, I've really been pushing that we just choose 20 Olympic individual weight category sports.
Okay.
After analyzing Olympic results, Olympic medalists and all that, and looking at the sports where mga Asians ang nananalo, so sabi ko, may chance din ang Pilipino dyan. No? Let's concentrate on individual weight category Olympic sports. Like, hindi natin pinupush yung air rifle na yan.
Okay.
No? Even the martial arts, yung mga kababayan natin sa Ifugao, ang gagaling sa martial arts ng mga yan, no? Sa Muay Thai and all that, Taekwondo and all that, karate and all that, weightlifting, boxing, kickboxing.
How about gymnastics, Commissioner?
Gymnastics, it has been proven na pwede rin tayo. Yun, basta individual weight category sports din. No? So I've been pushing for that, but of course, as I said, marami masyadong politikong humihingi ng suporta, hindi naman namin mahihindihan. No? So, yun.
Tennis, what do you think of tennis? May chance ba tayo sa tennis? Or there are some professionals who say na pati sa tennis, mas matangkad ka, mas mabuti. And then sa swimming, they're also saying, in terms of swimming, the taller you are, mas maaabot mo na kaagad yung, yung 400 meters or your 100 meters. Volleyball, kailangan mas matangkad ka rin. So these are also games for giants. Would you agree with that, Commissioner?
Yes, that's true. That's why sa tennis, we will reach this girl, Iala, now is making waves, no? And I hope she continues to be successful, no? Mahihirapan talaga yung kulang sa height compared to the others, no? Yung ibang mga tennis players, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", no?
Yes.
Kung 5'8", 5'7" ka lang, talagang may disadvantage ka, no? So, doon lang tayo mamimili nga dapat sa sport na meron tayong laban like taekwondo, karate, boxing, kasi parehong weight, 55 kilograms.
Yes.
Tayo laban, di ba? May mga weight category.
Judo, pwede, judo.
Judo, pwede.
Yes.
We have Kiyomi Watanabe, another half Cebuana, Cebu-born field job, who's also there, training in Japan with their parents. So she's joining also sa 63 kilogram category. Those sports, Eric, yun ang kailangan. We have to review the sports program talaga.
I'll ask this of you, Commissioner. No? I'm also a very good fan of yours and as well as basketball. There are people after they saw Alan Kaydik, after they saw Stephen Curry, who is talking about coming up with the program, high school level pa lang, papunta ng college, parang 3-point academy. Yung height, madali na yung height, basta maka 3 points, whether he is 6'4", 6'5", or 5'9", or 5'10", basta maka 3 points, pasok na dapat yan. Iti-training na natin yan from the grassroots level. What do you think of a 3-point academy?
Okay din yun.
Oo.
You don't really have to do, well, Alan Kaydik can definitely be one of the coaches there, one of the magtudlo dito. Some other good shooters. Yeah, because if you notice now in the Olympics, the World Basketball stage, or even the NBA, the 7-footers are already shooting 3-pointers.
Correct. Oh.
Extra weapon for them. No? So that's good. But I still say, Eric, na as far as government taxpayers money is concerned, dito na huwag natin na ilagay doon. But anyway, suportado naman yan sila ng private sectors.
Okay.
SPP is taking care of that as far as basketball is concerned.
Eto, Commissioner, idadagdag ko lang ito because if you yung 3 points, lumalayo na yung 3 points. There are some ideas, and I'm one of those amateur supporters of it, na if there's a 3-point shot based on distance, there should be a 4-point and a 5-point shot in basketball to make it more exciting. Your thoughts as an icon, so that pag merong 4 points at 5 points, may mag-training talaga dyan para ma-shoot yung 4 at 5 points just to make the game exciting. What do you think?
Well, that's an innovation that needs to be studied, really. Yeah. I'm open to that because like in the Metropolitan Basketball Association before, we changed the rules somewhat. Like an innovation na ginawa naming rules noon was yung 3-point in the last 2 minutes, pag on the offensive move ka, na foul ka, you can opt to take 2 free throws in the foul line,
Yes.
or take 1 shot out of the 3-point area, just 1 attempt.
Yes.
So, yung mga,
Maganda.
Innovations is definitely welcome and open.
So,
I'm open to that.
final word, Commissioner, for everybody and for the Philippine public and for the Cebuano as well.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity, Eric, to talk to our kababayans, not just here in Cebu, but throughout the country, and even outside. No? We just really need to support ang ating mga atletang Filipino. No? They need your support. Let's pray for them while they're preparing and playing in the Tokyo Olympics. For me, para sa akin, this is the biggest chance na magkaroon tayo ng several medals dito, Eric. Biggest chance. That's what we're hoping for. In fact, as of now, as I said, there are 15 qualifiers. Hindi pa pala kasama doon si Yuka Saso and Pagdanganan. So that's going 17. And I think there's one more wild card that's going to come in. Ang bilang namin, baka umabot ng 19 eh. Si Pagunsan pa, yung golfer na lalaki din. No? So, so far, ito ang pinakamaraming pinakamalaking delegation natin of athletes playing in the Olympics. In Rio, we had, I think, 13.
Okay.
No? So, this is a record breaker. That only goes to show how much this administration took care of our athletes, Eric. No? That's a sure proof of how we took care of our athletes in our administration. So that's, I believe, would be one of our legacies, aside from refurbishing a Rizal Memorial Complex, Baguio, and Field Sports. Pinaayos lahat yan, no? thanks to PAGCOR and of course with the guidance of President Duterte na nagawa natin lahat to ready na tong mga to, so the next administration hindi na mahirapan sa sports program nila. Nandyan na yung plan, nandyan na yung policies, in-strengthen namin yung policies. During the pandemic, Eric, it gave us the opportunity to hold the board meetings on a weekly basis.
Okay.
So we were able to really discuss policies thoroughly, unlike before, na twice a month lang ang board meeting namin. 10 o'clock in the morning, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. So sa dami ng agenda, hindi ma-discuss thoroughly. So ngayon, it takes us an hour at least or an hour and a half and being able to discuss the agendas. So we're able to come up with really sound policies for the next administration to just implement.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner. That was Commissioner Ramon Fernandez, and we wish kudos to everyone, especially our athletes who will be waving the flag in Tokyo, and we will be praying for them. We will be rooting for them, those who cannot be physically present, but we will be there in spirit, watching them. And again, we'd like to thank Commissioner Ramon Fernandez for the time. Ito po si Eric Espina, palaging nagsasabi, magmasid, makialam, higit sa lahat ay manindigan. Dahil wala pong magmamahal sa Pilipino kung hindi ang Pilipino. Dagang salamat, mahing gabi.
Mabuhay ang atletang Filipino.
Thank you.